All right, welcome back, everybody, for another episode of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video and article that I do for comicbookinvest.com, where I talk about those books that are still probably tucked away in those cheap boxes, those discount boxes, those yard sales, flea markets, wherever you're finding your cheap comics. These are some of the books I think you can go and pull out of there based off of some of the recent news, rumors, announcements, things going on in the comics, TV shows, etc. Just interesting kind of scavenger hunt style list of books that I think you can go and find if you're into just taking part in what's going on in the hobby right now. So hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And if you want to see what books I got for you this week, because I do got an oddball list of stories for you, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro and I will be right back. All right, first up, our first story comes around Wolverine and Ghost Rider. We're talking about Helverine. Yes, this new character that appeared in the recent issue of Wolverine last week is going by the name Helverine, as he gets an official code name of Wolverine mixed with Ghost Rider here. This is the cover of the issue. There's, A cover, B cover, a couple of those, etc. Now, while this, as far as I can tell, is the first time these two have actually melded, Ghost Rider and Wolverine, I would say, with this name, the name Helverine has been used before when Wolverine was possessed by a demon. Granted, it wasn't the Spirit of Vengeance, Ghost Rider, but back in Jason Aaron's run, Wolverine back, a ways back, he did go to hell. Like Wolverine went to hell and he came back as Helverine, and he was causing some mischief, going after the X-Men, etc. in those first, two story arcs of that run. I think it was like 2010. I want to say that was the year it was, but that was kind of our first Helverine. Not exactly the same, as I said, but still similar enough. I think it's kind of interesting, and you can go and find these Wolverine books out there. This was a very popular run, had a pretty decent print run, some pretty awesome J. Lee covers here. There's issue 1, and then we can show you issue 2 over here, and then move on to 3 and 4, also solid. Like I said, and Wolverine going up against the X-Men because he was possessed by a demon. And then it even continued on, wrapped up that first Wolverine and Hell storyline with issue 5, but then it started off another one where Wolverine was still, had the demon remnants in his head, still kind of controlling him, and he was going up against his friends, the X-Men, and still more awesome J. Lee covers here on issue 6. And I really like issue 7 there, and then, issue 8 to kind of wrap up that second story arc. Again, these are not expensive books. You're not going to get rich if you find them. You can find them in the cheap boxes, which is why they're part of this list. But you can see here that you can randomly see some issues sell for, a few dollars, but not quite a ton. And then you'll find some lots and pairs of issues out there, $5, maybe a little bit more around cover. But realistically, you can find these all very, very cheap, especially if you can get them in a lot. But it is still an interesting story if you want to kind of go back and read that Aaron run, which was, pretty solid. It was a fun story, Wolverine going to hell. But again, that's my callback to, Helverine. So with that, there is a second print for that first issue that you might be able to sneak out there. Again, it's not always expensive. This is one of those weird things where prices can really vary. So here's the second print, again, using interior art for issue 1. Look at what it sold for. Sold for all of $5, right? It's not a lot. Pretty cheap, right? But of the copies that are listed now, there's one listed for $11, and then there's one listed for $100. Not saying what price is right. It is what it is. That's what's on the market. I'm telling you, go look for it in the back issue boxes. See what you can find. All right. That said, enough Helverine for today. Let's completely shift gears and go in the opposite direction and go over to Disney. I know Marvel's owned by Disney, but I'm talking about Tangled, because there's a rumor, just like every animated Disney movie is basically getting a live action treatment. Have we not noticed that by now? Like every single one of them. So is it a surprise that they're talking about, hiring directors to do a Tangled live action remake. I mean, Tangled was all right, wasn't that bad. I don't know if we need a live action movie for it, but we might get it. And with that, we might get some interest in those comic books. Remember how people were buying Little Mermaid books? People bought Lion King books when those movies came out. So why not Tangled? And there are a few books you might want to go and look for if you're interested in Rapunzel. Starting off with 2016's Joe's books had Disney princesses. It just had a bunch of the princesses in there. I mean, we've even heard like the Princess and the Frog. I think it's going to live action that one too. Like I said, we already had Little Mermaid, but this is the type of book because I mean, Rapunzel is a classic character, so comic versions will vary. If you want the Disney version, this is one of the earliest I can think of that's not like a golden book or something like that. Actual comic. If you wanted an actual comic, there's not a lot of this Tangled version of the character. That said, the Joe's books from 2016, Rapunzel's in a bunch of them. This is issue 1, and then you can see she's here on the cover of a few other ones. What's that? Number 4, number 9, just randomly. Yeah, you can find this stuff out there. And again, kids' books. A lot of times you find kids' books in those cheap boxes. And look, there's a whole lot of issues 1 through 5, $30. Individual issue, like $5. Recent sale. Again, not a ton. Asking prices on that issue 1 anywhere right around $8 to $10. $8 to $10. It's not, again, super duper expensive, but yeah, it's a couple bucks. You find it for $1, you want to flip it for 10, have at it. Now, that was covering all of the Disney princesses. More specifically, Tangled also got like a animated series, I think. I think it was on like Disney or something like that. I don't know. I didn't watch it, but I think it existed. And with that, they actually made some comics adapted from Tangled, the series, starting in 2017. So here we go. Tangled, the series. I will probably come back to these because this first series, there's a 1 in 10. There's also B covers on this first run. A 3-issue run, I believe. Or was it more on the first Tangled series? I can't remember. Well, here's issue 1. There was a 1 in 10. Maybe we'll do that on Ghost. I'll have to look at it and see. Maybe it's a Ghost. I mean, how many people ordered 10 copies of Tangled, the series? And then there's some subsequent miniseries as well that had 1 in 10s for a bunch of the issues. So I think it'll be kind of a fun thing to go and look at those. Maybe in a future edition. So I got that in my back pocket on the to-do list. But going with the dollar bin stuff, like I said, there's cover A's and cover B's for these. I'm just showing you the cover A's because it was simpler. This is issue 1. You get a pretty fun Amazing Fantasy homage there on issue 2, right? I mean, that's kind of cool. And then issue 3, I mean, it is what it is. The quick little series. There's also trade paperbacks that collect all 3 of them, so be mindful of those as well when you're out there digging, that you might see trades of these, or when you're searching online, you see the prices, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cheap. A lot of times the trades are pretty cheap because they're pretty thin, 3 issues in them, and that's it. But with that, let's look at the pricings on these. So issue 1, could be like $5, $7 individual issues. That one at the bottom, that is the 1 in 10 that sold for like $7. They didn't list it as the RI. They just listed it as variant, but that is the cover. That is the RI. That is a 1 in 10. So I think somebody got a good price for only $7 because you look, I don't see any other ones out there. This is not going to be an easy book to find. So once again, do it on the other show another time. That said, asking prices, once again, not a lot of these out there. Plus, going through Disney comic books and getting away from all the other books and coloring books and toys and all that stuff, it's hard. It's hard to really track down some of these Disney comics. So when I did the search, I really only saw $20 for this issue 1. So that's a pretty solid ask too. So if you find this for cheap, maybe make a few bucks. As I mentioned, there were other mini series that came out, another 3-issue sets. The next year, 2018, we got another Tangled the series. You might find this as a trade paperback that has, I forget what the subtitles of these are. It's like all hair related. They're all hair puns, as you might guess. But issue 1 and 2 and 3, these also have 1 in 10s. We'll get to that another day. But I couldn't find any actual sales of this set or this series, but I did find a couple listings. Not expensive. $3 to $5 is all you're looking at. So pretty cheap for now. This stuff gets harder to find if there actually becomes interest in this. You never know what could happen. That's all. But, I mean, most likely there's going to be nothing. But you never know. We've all spent money and collected weirder things than this. So keep that in mind too. But if you find it for cheap, you're not risking a whole heck of a lot. Another series in 2019, another 3 issues, Here and Now, as you can see there. So issue 1, and I think there's 1 in 10s for these as well. Another 2 and 3. So this is a little subset series, Here and Now. So keep an eye out for this one. Once again, I couldn't find any recent sales of any of these individual issues, but I did find one of these listed for $8 for the number one. Actually says a lot of two, so maybe get two of them for $8. I don't know. Like I said, still cheap stuff. Fun little stuff to go and hunt in those little kids boxes where you will find these are usually pretty cheap books. And like I said, it's related to some of the news, like this next story, which we're sticking with Disney for another quick one, because apparently they're tapping Jennifer Lawrence to possibly be in line to play Tinkerbell in a live action movie. Focusing on Tinkerbell because why not? Right? So Tinkerbell. Thanks to Tornado for this one. If you want your Disney Tinkerbell, you might want to go and look in the free comic book day for Disney Fairies. So this was, I don't know, like years ago, 2013, I want to say, something like that. It's like 10 years ago, Disney Fairies, they had a little free comic book day thing. So this is what you want to go look for, I think, for Tinkerbell, because once again, there's other books and things that she might have been in, but I'm not going to say what her first is. I'm just saying this is an interesting little free comic book day book that you might be able to pull out of a dollar box. And you can see here, copy sold for $3, not a ton. Asking prices are anywhere from $4 to $12 for a free comic book. This was a free comic book day, free book. So you might find it for free. You might find it for a quarter. You might find it 50. Who knows where you're going to find? I don't know what kind of discounts your shops or your places have, but this was a free book that could just be buried in those extra boxes of cheap stuff. So, like I said, give it a look. See. And if you do want to see her tied into something that might be a little more familiar to you, you remember they had that Hook series, the Hook movie, and there was a Marvel series, 4 issues that ran back in the early 90s as well. So, I mean, she's in there. It's the official adaptation of the movie Hook. Granted, this is the what's her name? Oh, Jesus, why am I Julia Roberts? I'm drawing a blank here. The Julia Roberts version of Tinkerbell. So who knows? But you can see 2 through 4 there as well. Not expensive. This series is also not expensive. You can find this $2 up to 15. A lot of $6, $7 type of sales and listings. As you can see here, a lot of $6, $8, but there's still the $2, $1.72 type cheapy stuff if you are looking to. So, yeah, just fun stuff to go and dig and hunt based off of some of these announcements. There wasn't a ton this week, so I had to kind of stretch to go into the Disney angle of things because comic-wise, wasn't a whole heck of a lot going on that I found personally interesting. So, with that, talking a lot about Ahsoka the last week or two since Ahsoka has started, and there have been some stories about how the show is bringing in these old characters into canon, etc. So, Ahsoka's bringing 2 Knights of the Old Republic, blah, blah, blah. The one I want to talk about today, though, is the mentioned, whether it be directly related to this character or not. The Eye of Sion was the name of the ship that they were building in those first 2 episodes. Well, I mean, continually, but that they're still building, but those first 2 episodes where it first dropped. Elsbeth had called it the Eye of Sion. A lot of speculations related to Darth Sion, who is like that zombie Sith who defied death and found immortality, but it's like a zombie type character in the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic video game. So this is a video game first in this sequel to Knights of the Old Republic. You also got Nihilus on there. It's pretty cool too, but video game. So that's a weird little thing. However, there is mention of the character in comic books. Yes, I said mention. I didn't say appearance. I didn't say cameo. I didn't say cover or anything like that. I said mention. So take that for what it's worth. But if you like collecting weird, fun stuff and you think mention's cool enough, remember when Prince Zizor was mentioned in a recent Star Wars book? Everybody got all up in arms and got excited. So why not go and chase Knights of the Old Republic number 34 for that mention of Darth Sion down below. You can see it in that bottom panel on the left, where the character mentions Darth Sion. It's just a mention, folks. But if you want to collect weird stuff and you can find it for cheap, go for it. Granted, I will admit that finding these Knights of the Old Republic books in those cheap boxes are pretty tough these days. But at the same time, they're not super duper expensive. So this is issue 34. So you might be able to find this one out there. You can see copies recently sold around $10. There are graded ones as well. 9/8 selling for like $60 or so. Asking prices on this, depending on grade, $6.50, $9. Somebody did put a $25 one out there and put it as first appearance Darth Sion. But as I showed you, there is no appearance. It's a mention. It's just the name. So if you don't want to go investing money in a name mention, just know what you're buying. That's why I like doing this. I just try to educate and let you know what you're buying. You call it whatever you want. You can buy whatever you want for whatever reason you want. I just like to make sure that everybody knows what they're buying. So, I mean, I like buying that stuff too, whether it be a mention or just appearance, cameo, just picture in the background, whatever. I like that stuff. But know that's what it is before you go investing a ton of money. So that's why we talk about a lot of this stuff on Dollar Bin Digging, because if you find it for a couple of bucks, buck or two, there's no real risk involved. That said, following up our Star Wars, let's go into another sword bearing character and let's talk about Highlander and my man Henry Cavill. So he is doing a reboot with the director of the John Wick movies. I can't remember how to pronounce it. Stilitsky, Chad Stileski. I can't remember his name, how to say it properly, but you know what I'm talking. He did John Wick, Henry Cavill, John Wick director, doing some sword play with Highlander. I'm in. Granted, they're talking about it being a prequel to the TV series. I don't know why the image is showing Connor, because it was the other dude. It wasn't Christopher Lambert in the TV show. It was the other guy. But who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? Who knows? I don't know yet. We don't got a lot of details. We'll find out as time goes on. But there are some Highlander comics if you are interested in those as well. So let's see what we got here. Dynamite had this property back in 2006, and with it, they started it off with a 0 issue that had a couple of covers that they were pre-selling for only like a quarter. Just try it out, trying to lure people in for a quarter. So this is the kind of cheap book box that you can find in a box, because it was a quarter book. So finding it in a dollar box ain't going to be too far out of the realm of possibilities here. That said, this quarter book could still sell for, maybe as cheap as $1, but also could sell for like $8. And then you could see a lot that sold for 80. Asking prices can be anywhere from $3 to $15 to $20, also for $3. Like, pricing is very inconsistent, as you can see. Inconsistent pricing, but it's a quarter. Or at least that's the cover price. See what you find out there. But that was leading into the series. This actually started, I think, in 2007, because that was like end of 2006. So this actually should say 2007. But the Highlander series, also multiple covers on a bunch of these books. But I'm not going to show you all of them. Just showing you a couple. I do like this Kurgan one here on issue 1. There's a RRP one where it's kind of like a half color fade. There's also a pretty badass foil, retailer incentive. That said, this series ran about 12 issues, right? Yeah. So there's a couple other examples of some other books in that final issue, issue 12, that you can find for this Dynamite run. Dynamite also did a follow-up series of like 3 or so. Forget what it was called, but there was another series that they did that I didn't put in here. But just to give you some sense of the prices, you can see random lots of books can be, $4 for issues 1, 2, 3. And they got a couple other issues in there. But meanwhile, somebody else also paid $80 for a more complete run from 0 to 12. So could sell for a decent amount if you get all of them. Dig in those dollar boxes. Maybe you find all 12 and that 0. So it's technically 13. Baker's dozen. But you can also see copies can sell as cheap as $1.79 for individual issues. But then you also find lots that might only be $40 or $50. Some of them aren't even complete. But it is what it is. Still, fun books that you can go and dig out of those boxes. Dynamite, like I said, had a follow-up series. But based off of what this movie's supposed to be, a prequel to the TV show, maybe we see some more period piece type stuff. So it's possible we see something that could be sort of related to the IDW series that came a bit later. IDW got the Highlander, and they gave us this American Dream series, which only ran 5 issues, but also multiple covers here, RIs as well. Pretty cool. Actually, this is the one that had the foil. Sorry, this is the one that had the foil cover. So you can see here, this one I think took place in like the 1950s. So, you've got your sword fighting, kind of a film noirish type detective throwback kind of thing. Could be kind of fun. Issue 1, 2, and 3, and then you can see there's also issue 4 and a 5 that wraps up the series. And some pretty cool covers mixed in there. I mean, that first Frankenvian one I really like the sword. I like the McLeod sword. I think it's pretty cool. But you can see here, these sell pretty well. $15 for that issue 1, $200 for that foil I was talking about. The foil sword. I mean, it's just a cool looking cover. And then you got other cover. This issue 3 had a subscription cover, which is basically the B cover for only $5. I'm sorry. So you can see pricing, It's still inconsistent, as many things of this nature are. But I'm telling you, dig them out of the cheap boxes, because yes, you might be able to find a copy of issue one online for as cheap as $3 or as much as $10. A whole lot of all five, for only 24. I don't know. It's all out there. It's all out there. But dig in the cheap boxes, grab some of this stuff for fun. That's the whole idea. That's the whole point. And that's why I'm telling you about these. And with that said, that's my list for this week. I know it was a wonky kind of list with some weird stuff kind of mixed in there, but I still think it's kind of fun. And I still think there's plenty of things you can go and dig for while you're hunting for those big game, those big fish. Like, oh, there's a New Mutants 98 in here, and you find it for $1. Great. While you're looking for that, and the chances you find that are slim, maybe you stumble across some of this weird stuff and you just grab it just so you have something. So you don't come away empty. It's nothing worse than digging in a dollar box for like an hour and you don't buy anything. Because you're like, man, did I just waste all that time? So you want to come home with something, right? Anyway, thanks for stopping by and checking this out. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else. Don't worry, I got plenty more content coming your way. And make sure you check out all the live shows this weekend on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then back here on Wednesday as we pregame for Baltimore. And I guess that's all I got for you. And I'll see you soon with some more content. All right, later.